Day 77, kind of a lot to talk about today. I know I have dark rings around my eyes, but I've managed to go 77 days and have the first cold of the session. Everyone else has been sick 2 or 3 times, so I feel like I'm getting off kind of easy. And I drove back and forth a couple of times this week, as you can tell from the videos. Tonight I came back to Butte for a fundraiser for the Southwest Montana Central Labor Council. They're going to use the money they raised tonight to do some home improvements, home repair and home improvements for elderly and low-income people, mainly in my district probably because that's who needs it. So it was a good event to come back for, and it was so nice to see all of my brothers and sisters back in Butte. So this morning in Business and Labor, we took executive action on Senate Bill 173, which revises the workers' compensation laws and works on reconciling the new and the old fund. I had some time after that to prepare for the floor session, find out what my votes were on the bills the first time I heard them, and look at the amendments because, as I've been talking about, we are now in the point of the session where we're getting a lot of amendments from the Senate and not very many new bills. I went to lunch today to discuss a campaign finance bill that is coming from the governor's office and is a joint effort with a Republican senator. And there's a little bit of strife going about it. As you know, especially probably if you voted for Governor Bullock, he's instrumental in campaign finance reform. He has worked so hard in his career to fight dark money and now has a plan to fight dark money in Montana. Dark money is money spent from corporate treasuries that does not have to be disclosed. And so he's worked with the Republican senator to bring this bill forward that shines a light on dark money. And the Democrats are having some heartache with it because in order to make this a bipartisan bill, there has to be also some increase in the caps that we have on our contributions. For example, right now, if you wanted to contribute to my campaign for the next election, you could give me $160 and or if I was going to, in 2 contested races, a contested primary and a contested general, it could be $320 total. And this bill raises that amount, and it also raises the amount of money that we can take from PACs, which are still groups of people pooling their money together. It's not corporations. So there was no way it was going to have bipartisan support if there wasn't an increase on the limits. And the Democrats don't want increases on the limits. We want to keep the limits low like they are now so that it feels like it's in the hands of actual human beings who can afford to have an influence in politics, and also shine a light on the dark money by making them disclose who is contributing to their efforts. So there's been some discussion about that. The bill right now is sitting in judiciary, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of amendments get put on it and who ends up supporting this. On the floor today, we had 13 bills that came back with Senate amendments, 3 Senate bills, and 1 Senate joint resolution. And so it's interesting for me to see that the Senate really has a lot more collective experience, wisdom, if you will. Okay, maybe not wisdom, but collective experience than the House does. Because of term limits, we have a lot of brand new, never served before people in the House, and it's kind of common practice for someone to serve and term out in the House and then move on to the Senate. And so it's really been interesting to me to see things that pass through the House go to the Senate and then come back with good amendments. For example, House Bill 431 was a bill or is a bill to allow for compensation to a landowner for the disruption of the surface of his land. And this bill was brought and explained to us about how this is a problem in eastern Montana with these oil and gas companies disturbing the land and then not making the landowner whole for the damage. And the way it was explained to us, it sounded fine, and it got out of the House with broad support. But then the Senate sent back amendments, and they amended it just to say that you cannot value your land. When you ask for money back on the damage, you can't value your land based on what you may have used it for someday. And that, going back and looking at the bill, that is what it said. And apparently there's a problem in eastern Montana where some people have man camps on their property. That boosts the value of your property. And so if you're going to try to get compensation for damage to your land, the amount that you ask for, instead of just being based on the actual agricultural value of your land, this bill would have allowed you to say, oh, but I was planning on building or subdividing or doing a man camp, and so I actually need way more money back on my land because of what this idea I had for developing it sometime in the future. The Senate sent it back to us saying that you can't value your land on some imaginary future purpose unless you have a licensing process or have taken some kind of steps to actually do this project. And so it was interesting. That is such a good amendment. And the sponsor of the bill asked us to not agree with the amendments. So it was his intention that you would be able to ask for whatever value of your land you felt was appropriate based on whatever you may have done with your land in the future. Just interesting. House Bill 120 was an example of how a bill sometimes, instead of coming back with good amendments, can go over to the Senate and get hijacked by the evil forces that are over there. So this was a really good voter registration bill by a Republican, and it came back with amendments from the Senate that made it harder to vote, put more restrictions on the voter registration, and what's really funny is required more personal information. It required social security numbers and driver's license numbers, which this is the party that has said no to every data collection bill that has come up so far. And now, but now, if you're going to vote, they definitely want to be collecting some data. So that sponsor also requested that we not concur with the amendments, and it was easy to do so because they were bad amendments. They had kind of hijacked our bill to try to keep you from voting. So if we don't agree with the amendments, then what happens is the bill is not dead. It goes to a conference committee. A conference committee is Republicans and Democrats, a very small group who are appointed by the leadership, who sit down and try to come to an agreement on just the amendment itself. Or they can appoint a free conference committee. The difference is that is still Democrats and Republicans that are appointed by the leadership that sit down and can change the bill. Not just the amendment, but the bill in any way that they agree to. So that one was actually sent to a free conference committee, which worries me a little bit, but no one really objected, so maybe it's okay. House Bill 239, I am so sick of this bill. It defines the scope of K-12 sex education. And let me tell you why I'm sick of it. I said before that it takes away the local school board's authority to make decisions that they have always made for themselves and that they do a good job of making for themselves. Every little district in Montana has different issues. It has different members. It has different parents in it, and they elect school board members to make decisions that reflect their values. And this bill says, no, we have to have a one-size-fits-all for the whole state and not let every little locality elect their own school boards to make their own decisions. And this bill will pass, but there's a chance that it might be vetoed. We don't have those discussions with the governor because we're two separate branches. So because it's a bad bill and it may end up getting vetoed, there is also the identical language in a referendum to put this wording on the ballot. So I have seen the same language once for the bill, once for the amendments, once for the referendum, and once for the amendments to the referendum. And I hate it, and I'm so sick of this stupid bill. It keeps rearing its ugly head. Senate Bill 342 was a great thing that happened today in the House. It's a bill to establish the Montana Indian Language Preservation Pilot Program. Many members of the Native American Caucus got up to speak, and they said things like, it's nice that you guys are 4th and 5th generation Montanans, and I realize why you're really proud of that, but we are 50th generation Montanans. And they really talked about how they have had their language stolen. And what struck me was when several representatives stood up and said, I don't really know how to fluently speak to you in my own native tongue because my grandparents were punished for speaking it. So it never got passed down to me. Wow. It was really moving, and the testimony on this bill was used as a platform to talk about the oppression of their culture in several aspects that continues today across a broad spectrum. And I appreciated that discussion was allowed. And I was, once again, I know I should not be surprised, but I was surprised when 26 people voted against the Indian Language Preservation Pilot Program. So no one stood up against it, but then 26 people voted against it. And that leaves you wondering, what do you have against this? You can go look at the vote at bit.ly/Montana speaks up or out. I'll font it. And then Senate Joint Resolution 21 was a resolution recognizing the 70th anniversary of the 163rd Infantry Services, their World War II service. So on third reading today, we had the bill I talked about yesterday that was a school safety bill that mandates that schools annually review and update their weapons policy. And I have to say that irony of the day is that the same exact people who have voted for every single gun bill. They want you to be able to take a gun into court. They want you to be able to take a gun into a bar. They want you to be able to take a gun into a college campus and only have to tell your college roommate about it. They want you to be able to have a gun locked in the trunk of your car at school, at a high school or an elementary school. Those same people voted against asking schools to annually review and update their weapons policy. Really? 13 more videos to go. Tomorrow's Saturday. Thanks for all of the support. Love you guys.